Welcome, everybody. This is Jonathan Stewart, co-host here, Jeremy Kelley. You are now listening to the Stew and the Crew. Today we have former wide receiver Ricky Proehl, everybody. Listen here, 17-year vet, got drafted in the 90s, 1990 to be exact, third round, went to Wake Forest. I like to joke with, you know Kenny Moore, of course. I like to joke with him because I used to call Wake Forest Weak Forest because
Good one.
At one point you guys played Oregon a long time ago. Maybe you were on that team.
Beat y'all.
Yeah, you did. And so
Okay.
as far as me calling y'all weak, it's just me being hating.
Bitter.
I'm just hating. You know what I'm saying? So,
I understand.
but yeah, 2-time Super Bowl champ.
Mm.
Man, just the way that sounds, just greatness. We're talking the
It never,
greatness,
it never gets old, Stu.
man.
It never gets old.
But welcome to the show, bro. It's been what, 6 years since you
Yes.
coached in the Super Bowl?
2015 season.
Yeah.
My last year was 2016. It's crazy. Time just flies.
Yeah.
Great years, man. A lot of great memories. Good guys, man. I talk to people all the time about that team when we just. And Stu, note, and I'm not just saying that because we're on this podcast, but as coaches, we blew that Super Bowl. I mean, I just look at, the squad we had, that season we had, the kind of running back you were and the running game we had. Like, they had the best two DNs in the league that year with Von Miller and D. Ware, and we're trying to throw 7-step passes. Our defense was unbelievable. Peyton, with all due respect, at that point in his career, he couldn't throw the ball 25 yards. And if we just played field position, man, just run it at Von Miller with you, just grind it out, and play field position. And then, we're twice backed up and we're trying to throw 7-step drop and had 2 strip fumbles. And that's not Cam's fault. That's our fault as coaches, just understanding, what kind of team we had and where they were. And, just being smart and just playing field position. Simple as that.
I can see the pain in your eyes, Rick.
Yeah, man.
You went there.
frustrating.
You went there.
You have a team that is like we had in, 15. Well, we could have been undefeated. We didn't play our starters the last game, and Cam was on top of his game. He was the face of the league. He was a great football player, and we had a great football team, great defense with Luke and Thomas and all those guys. Star, our front seven was unbelievable. They couldn't do anything offensively. But when you give them the ball in the short field, now all of a sudden you got the best one of the best quarterbacks to ever play the game, and it's frustrating. And for me as a former player, sometimes I felt like my voice didn't matter just because I was a young coach. And even though I played the game, I know the game, and I know, hey, just like a wideout, in Super Bowl we lost with the Rams. We had the best receivers in the league, but New England's stopping the pass. We got Marshall Faulk, run Marshall Faulk.
Yeah.
I like to catch 3 passes. But we got to do what we got to do to win the football game. And at the end of the day, that's what matters. And
So what do you think that is where, coaches in big games, go away from what has gotten them to those big games?
It's just like sometimes players, you become selfish. It becomes an ego thing. Like, what we've been throwing it around. We're going to, this is what we're going to do. And not to say they weren't bad. They were bad plays, but not in that situation, not that early in the game,
Caught up in the moment.
You get caught up in the moment.
That's right. Caught up in the game plan, caught up in the sheet.
Yeah, because that happens all the time for players where you like make this moment so big to where you just start playing outside of yourself, right?
Absolutely. Instead of letting the game come to you, play it. Let's even if it's ugly, even if it's methodical. I mean, you look at I grew up in the New York Giants and Bill Parcells. His Super Bowl wins were ugly, but they were wins.
Yeah.
Grind it, play good defense, run the ball, play field position, field goals, whatever you got to do to put points on the board. Belichick did the same thing. And, and that's the one thing I really take away, Stu. And I know, Cam, people talk about Cam all the time. And the one thing I loved Cam as a former coach, I loved how he approached the game. I loved how he approached practice. He was one of the most selfless guys I've ever been around with his status. I mean, he literally, I tell people all the time, he didn't care if he was 4 for 20 for 100 yards. All he cared about was winning that W. And that's, to me, and he never, if a receiver dropped the ball, if the left tackle blew his assignment, he got blown up, he never pointed a finger. Next play, let's go. Always encouraging people. And that's the stuff that people don't see. And it's like that Super Bowl, I wasn't even a player, and I won 2 Super Bowls, played in 4, but the ones you lose, even as a player or a coach, that makes me sick, just because you deserve to be a Super Bowl champion. And that team deserved to be a Super Bowl champion. And it still sticks with me.
Since we're on the topic of Super Bowls, which Super Bowl meant the most that you won?
My first one with the Rams. Just because for me, it was everything that happened that season, just to kind of I had a lot of individual success coming up into that season. And I prayed all the time that, God, I just want to feel what it feels like to win. Like you said, being at Wake Forest, we had decent years when I was there, but back then they only had a couple of bowls and we couldn't get into them because our school wasn't big enough. And then my first 10 years in the league, I was on bad teams, 3-13, 4-12. And it wears on you. And as a player, you just go through training camp and then you just, next thing you know, you're 1-8 middle of the season. And it's just, how much longer can I do this? And I prayed, like, man, I don't care about my stats anymore. I just want to win. I just want to feel what it feels like to win. And then I go to the Rams and we got unbelievable. Isaac, Torrey, Kurt, Marshall Faulk, Akeem, Ernie Conwell. We had unbelievable skill players. And I was kind of the third down guy. And everybody on that football team, I mean, I laugh at it now, but everybody scored touchdowns. I mean, from our right tackle eligible to defensive guys, we had a bunch of pick sixes. We were the most prolific scoring offense in NFL history at that time. And everybody scored but me. And like I said, I was the third down guy. And that was kind of my role at that point, coming in on third down, making the catch, first down, moving the chains. And then we get in the NFC Championship, and the score is 6-5. I mean, we're scoring 30, 40 points every game. We get in the NFC Champions against Tampa, and it's their unbelievable defense. And Torrey's banged.
Brooks was out there balling
too.
And I'm having a huge game. I mean, I end up having 6 for 100, and I catch a 30-yard touchdown to get us into the Super Bowl. We win 11-6. And then to win in a tight game against Tennessee, but to finally win, there was no experience like that for me. I mean, it was just like, wow, this is unreal. And then once you win and you get a feeling of playing in the Super Bowl, and then to go back 3 more times, but they were all equally, it's just unbelievable. But that one was probably the most special for me, because it made me realize as a player, as a person, to be selfless, that you need, like, just like in the business world, just like in your personal world, like your portfolio, you need to be diversified. To have a championship team, you need to be diversified in from having great running backs to having great receivers. So you look at so many great receivers that catch 100 and something balls during the season, but then when you get in the playoffs, they're going to stop that guy.
Yeah.
You got other guys that can step up and make plays. And that's what it taught me. And it's no different in my business. You got to have great people around you that produce, make plays, or do their jobs. And that's how you become successful.
Yeah.
Man.
Well said.
Man that's passionate about the game. It's good to see you on here. 17 years, as we just talked about. And how many coaching? 8.
Six.
Six coaching. And for you to have taken a huddle with multiple Hall of Famers, those that you just mentioned, Kurt.
Marshall.
Yeah. 2-8 in the backfield coming out.
Which, by the way, Marshall Faulk was the reason why I wore number 28. For real.
When I was, I played Peyton Manning. Probably Marshall Faulk was next to, I think equal as Peyton, but Marshall Faulk was the smartest football player I ever played with. Unbelievable. How he just knew the interior linemen, linebackers, their sets, and how to set up blocks. He was phenomenal. He literally, you could ask Torrey, Isaac, Oz. We love blocking for him. He made it easy. He would take the defender where he wanted, and then it would make our blocks easy. And then we'd seal him or push him out, and he'd just cut off our blocks. But just the knowledge of the game as a receiver. He was just as good as a receiver as he was a running back. He was phenomenal, and just to see him and be with him in the locker room, in the meeting rooms, his knowledge of the game is second to none.
He seems like a studious guy, very stoic, kind of doesn't have a lot to say unless maybe you know him or you're inside his inner circle. Met him a few times at a few golf tournaments.
You right on.
Kind of keeps it right to himself, close to the vest, going to have a stick in his hand, cigar, and keep it moving. Yeah.
You hit on it.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Although I will say this, right, and I guess I touch on my Buffalo roots here, but man, without no Thurman Thomas, you don't have Marshall Faulk.
Oh, yeah.
And I think Thurman is a guy, as we're talking about running backs, we're talking about knowledge, we're talking about just intuition. I don't think that there's many better to ever play this game. And I think he's a guy who, had he got a ring, or multiple, right?
Obviously, he would have way more.
I think people would talk or refer to Thurman Thomas like they do Emmitt Smith. I think he was just that caliber athlete. Him and Marshall both incredible receivers of the football as well as rushers of the football. Ability to make people miss in small spaces, all those things. So shout out to Thurman, shout out to 3-4. But I want to go back. As you were mentioning, and I brought up the Hall of Famers that you played with, and you mentioned something about Cam. You've played with a lot of high caliber, the greatest of all time. And for you to say that an individual like Cam is one of the most selfless that you've ever been around, I think that's profound. I think it's a profound statement. And, maybe it's in my role as director of Legends Affairs here, right? You kind of protect your guys sometimes, right? And I think we all know that there's guys that get a bad rap because of media. There's guys that get a bad rap because they choose to. There's guys that get a bad rap because of misconceptions, whatever it may be. So for you to say that as both a former player and a coach, I thought that's something worth noting.
Cam can be I don't know what word am
misunderstood.
Understood.
The thing about Cam that I love is he makes it about winning. Everything is about winning. Showing up to the locker, showing up every day. He was competing. He was competing from the day before. It was like, man, the energy level is stinky. It stinks. Let's turn the energy level up. Practice is going to suck if we do not figure this out, TD. Like the chirping at practice, all those types of things. It was about getting everyone riled up to get ready to go out and perform. And that's who Cam is. I remember, I don't know if you remember this, Ricky, my last year, I had 3 fumbles in one game, 2 that got actually turned over. And it was against the Atlanta Falcons. Terrible time. And Cam comes over, and he's like, "Hey, you okay?" And it was the first time that he's really had to ask me, like, if something was wrong, because I was off. And it was really the first time that I looked at Cam in a way that was like, man, he gets it. And
Yeah.
I've always known that he gets it, but I'm performing in a way that's hurting the team, right? Mid-game. And he's not coming over to me saying, hey, dog, check out of that, whatever. You know, the emotional intelligence that he actually has. I'm using the word emotional intelligence throughout this whole series because I think it's something that we oftentimes overlook or may not have even heard of, right? When it comes to this barbaric game that we play. Being able to meet people where they are, that's what Cam did. That's what made him special. Whatever music that you're listening to, he's going to be able to dance to it.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever food that you cooking, he's going to find out a way to eat it. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's the mentality that you have when it comes to a leader on a team and a guy that changed the culture of football in a lot of ways. And so you talking about, you know, Cam and his selflessness, like, that's how he was raised. You know what I'm saying? Like, that comes from his home. And when people, you know, try to shut that down and make him to be something that he's not, like, guys that have actually played with him, been in the locker room with him, gone through battles with him, like, I take it to heart. I'm like, man, y'all don't know what you're talking about. He's not gonna sit up all day and try to defend himself to all the millions of people that think something about him. But I'm glad that we're talking about it. I'm glad you brought that up because it's us that has to defend him. The people that know him, I feel like if there's a discussion that's happening that's false, I'm gonna speak up for it. And we need more people like that out there.
100%. I mean, I people, like I said, you know, he's so misunderstood. People just don't know Cam. You know, when they make that comment, they don't know him. They don't know who he is as a football player, but as a man. Like, he just, you know, I think his experience at Florida, you know, I mean, that was his dream to go to Florida. You know, they were, you know, one of the top programs at that time. And I think his experience there was, you know, it's so funny because I'm not going to sit here but there's so many people that perception is reality, but there's so many people that perceive certain players as great dudes, great people because they play that role, but behind the scenes are.
Yeah, I know where you're going with that. I mean,
and there's several people I could, but you know, I'm not going to name names, but Cam is that guy that people perceive as being on the other side of the coin. And I tell people all the time, you know, like, you would think, you know, when you play 17 years, you play with a lot of amazing athletes, but they're not. Some of them aren't what they think they are. Like I've said, Deion Sanders is the same thing. Certain people perceived him as a player because he was flamboyant in everything he did on the football field, and he talked, but he walked the walk. But he was a great dude. Every time I've come in contact with Deion, nothing but first class, nothing but respect from me. You know, and I'm not even in the same category as Deion Sanders, but just played against him, just a respect. Michael Irvin, the same thing. You know, I know they're passionate about the game and about life and about people. And, you know, it's like, I don't know if you've seen, I saw it last night on Instagram, Michael just going off on the CeeDee Lamb thing, like people just destroying CeeDee Lamb, saying he can't, you know, he's got to get back on the field, and you know, they don't understand the window of opportunities these guys have to make money, and you know, there's no guarantee.
I think they definitely understand. I think they just lose what their, you know, the foundation of what they believe in. You know what I'm saying? I feel like nowadays the clickbait, the commentary, the broadcasting, we're so quick to just say what the majority is thinking, right? The majority is saying to themselves, oh, CeeDee Lamb, you're in NFL, you got millions of dollars. You should just show up. Nah. I'm trying to be more than just a couple $1 million man. You know what I'm saying? I'm trying to
A
be
lot to it.
like Jerry Jones. Why not? You know what I'm saying? So I have this window of opportunity to break the bank for what my value is. I know my value, and so do you. So let's get to it. And so, like that's crazy to me. Like you got Michael Irvin.
It's because that's where I really respect Michael, because Michael's fighting for CD. Like he's like, y'all need to shut up. Like this is, I held out back when we won the Super Bowl, and I held out because that was the time. And there's guys that I look at the era I played in, and the money was different, and it's grown so fast. But I mean, you can't. That's where it is right now. That the market bear is. That's what it's the greatest. To me, it's just it's awesome that these guys are getting what they are getting, but it doesn't. It's not like some of these other sports where it lasts forever, or those get the guaranteed contracts forever.
Yeah.
There's some baseball players who are still getting paid, and they haven't played in 15 years.
That's right.
Oh yeah.
That's right.
But it's that's
not guaranteed.
Yeah.
It's not guaranteed. Yeah. Speaking of dark day in football, all been there, all experienced. Well, not everybody. Some of us in here. Some of us had to get it out the mud, Rick. I don't know. Well, you were a draft pick too. Undrafted free agent, the only one at the table here. So we got
it. Well, I experienced it to my boys, though. I experienced it to my
Stewie been privileged, but he earned it.
I about to say privilege was earned.
Cut day. Dark day in the NFL. Always tough, always bittersweet, right? You're going to see guys that are going to keep going. They're going to find themselves with other clubs. There's going to be guys that make the team. There's going to be guys that say, hey, you know what? I'm hanging it up. I'm going to go find another passion in life. As a former player, as a coach, what's your perspective like there? How tough is that on both sides of the ball, watching guys exit the locker room knowing that they put everything on the line, whether they were capable of being on a team or not, and then also as a coach, having to make those decisions, sit in those rooms and let guys go, knowing, man, if I just had a little bit more time or otherwise?
Well, I think first to answer a couple questions in there. So let me start with, as a player, it was so hard, and I'm sure both of you can relate. There are times where you sit in a locker and a guy get cut over a guy, and then someone makes it, and you're like, he got released? He made it? Mm-hmm. I mean, you're blown away, and some of it's politics, man. Some of it is who got drafted, who didn't, who they brought in. It's so hard to see these guys that work their tail off, and some of them maybe didn't get the opportunities to really showcase their skill set to where they can make the football team, because sometimes on purpose, I hate to say that, but it's just the truth. Just from being on both sides as a player and a coach. I mean, I've seen players that I was trying to develop that said, hey, we're going to release him because I brought in so-and-so and he's going to be on this football team. I think it's for me as a coach, I stood in front of my guys, 12 guys, and said, I'm going to give you every opportunity. And I can honestly say I did that for 6 years. I would script our offensive plays. I would script guys to put them in plays to where that was their strength, that they could showcase their talent, make plays. So when we had to cut them, or they didn't produce, so they knew they were going to get released. And because as a man, I couldn't look them in the eye and say, you weren't good enough when I never gave you a chance to make it.
Right.
And that happens. That's real. There's a lot of talented guys that can play in this league that never got the opportunity, that never got a chance to be on the roster. And it's sad, because some of it is political, and it's, some of these guys that get drafted, their game doesn't transfer to the NFL, but they're going to make the team because they've got money invested in them. That's just cold-hearted truth. I mean, that's real. And it's sad because there are guys, I just wish, I know that's why I coached in the XFL, because I felt like there were guys that I coached that can play in the league that I wanted to help develop, to give them a second shot to get in the league. And I think that I wish we still had the World League, hopefully, in a farm system that can help these guys develop, because it's so, the systems are so complex now, and they expect these guys to figure it out overnight, and it's hard. It's, especially for offensive guys. I mean, these guys have one words, that's the formation, that's the protection, that's
motion.
the motion, the concept, and you can't,
verbiage, all that.
Right.
You can't, if a guy, I don't care even if he's a smart football player, if he doesn't pick it up right away, his athleticism is never going to show up on the field if he's thinking about where to line, and that's tough. And that's what I try to do as a coach is, man, I spent the extra hours with the young guys of walkthroughs, because my whole approach was, if you don't know where to line up, you're never going to figure out the play. Because if you're going left, where am I lining up? Now you forget what the play is.
Yeah.
If you can at least know where to line up, you have 2-3 seconds to try to process, okay, this is what I got. This is the concept, 2 posts, or, go, a sail, and a flat, just stuff like that. And that's what I loved coaching, because I felt like I could expedite that process to help those guys learn, to make them feel confident and comfortable in the role they were in, to where they could go out and make plays. And I wasn't going to berate them if they lined up wrong. I used to, Demir Bird.
Yeah, I was just thinking about Demir.
He was a practice squad guy. I'd put him in training camp with Cam, and they'd be looking at me, what the hell's he doing in here with Cam? I said, learning.
Yeah.
Developing.
That's why he's here.
Like,
Right.
and that's what I took pride in.
And Demir's still in the league. He was just
not backing down. Yeah, Demir's still, and not backing down. Like, the Bursons of the world, who were off the chain smart. Like, hey, there's something. Look at every time he comes in, Cam throws it to him because he knows he's going to be where he's supposed to be.
That's right.
You know what I'm saying? There's something to be said for that. Yeah, he does run a 4.3, but he's fast enough. He gets open. He understands the game. Like, there's guys. There's a place for that, for guys in the league, for those guys. Maybe they're not your starters. They're not going to take the top off. They're not going to, make the huge plays, but you need them when guys go down.
Yeah, around week 9, week 11.
Yeah.
That's right.
Injuries
and
come.
they can finish a game, and the quarterback believes in them, and that's where sometimes, like I said, the teams that win consistently, they understand that.
Yeah,
they're diversified. They understand that there's guys that play that role, that don't say nothing. They just, they work their tail off, and they can play 3-4 positions. And those guys are important. Those guys are and they're good for the starters, because they're knowledgeable. They're smart. They can, I just think that's what. But getting back to, I know I went on a tangent, but yeah, it's hard when guys. This is tough, because my heart bleeds. I had 2 boys, man. I got that call as a dad.
Yeah,
just got released.
Yeah, tell us about, like, you being a father that played so long in this league. You basically, your whole life, you breathed and lived football, raising 2 young men around football. What was that like? What was your intentionality, on a day-to-day, especially as they started getting older, and showing them, the ropes of what it is going to be like and what it's going to take to become a professional athlete? And then talk to us about, the days like today, which is cut day, and how you had to prepare yourself to basically handle that with your kids.
I think early on it was tough, because I played 17 years. I was never cut. And as they got older, they saw Dad having success, even at an old age. Just they knew, my role had changed, but I still worked hard at my craft. This is easy. I'm just going to, we'll play football growing up. It's gonna, just line up and play. I'm gonna make it like it's, they don't understand the whole getting cut process, and then they both, get a scholarship, go to college, and then, Austin gets drafted late. Blake's a free agent. He doesn't get drafted. He's had some injuries, and they start to have some success, but they don't understand that, what it really takes to be a pro. And then they start to figure it out, the grind of just, the details of just being a great route runner. Like who are you as a player? You gotta define yourself as a player. Who are you? Are you an X? Are you a Z? Are you a slot guy? Austin was more, of a slot guy. He was a detailed route guy, great quickness, smaller frame, where Blake's 6'2", probably more of an X or a Z, outside receiver. Maybe not as good a route runner, but unbelievable speed, take the top off, but still good route runner, good hands. So just teaching them the nuances of the game and what it takes to be a pro and how hard it is. Even though you're good, you had success in college, these guys are the best of the best. Every time you think you've made strides or you're pretty good, there's, the CD Lambs, or they're bringing in new guys to replace you. And right when you think you made it on the practice squad, they're going to bring other practice squads. They're looking, for guys that fit the system. And it's understanding that. And then, like you said, as a dad, to get that call, hey, I just got cut, or I just blew my knee out, man, it's gut wrenching, because it's funny when you play, you don't think about getting hurt. You don't think about fumbling the ball. You don't think about dropping the ball. When you're a dad and that ball's in the air and it's going to your son, you're like, oh my God.
Catch the ball, son.
The ball seems like it's in the air for eternity.
Yeah.
And when they make a play, it's just, your heart explodes, man. It's just the joy of seeing them have success at all levels. And then, so when they get released or they get cut, it's that same hurt, man. It just hurts to the core. And I know how hard they've worked, but it's like anything, man. You learn from that. You learn from those experiences. And I tell people all the time with my business, I learned so many life skills through sports, and just how to work hard, and how to preparation. There's no substitution for preparation and being ready, because I think being prepared for anything breeds confidence, and then confidence breeds success. And that's what's teaching them. And it's hard as a dad, because I think both of them were good enough to play. I really do. I think sometimes I felt like sometimes their name hurt them. I wish their name was a different name just to see.
Yeah.
Just, just in college, I mean, people were like, scouts were asking college coaches, well, what was dad like? Was he a hover dad? Was he calling you all the time? Was he one of those dudes who just in your, office all the time telling you what you need to do? And like, no, it's,
right.
So, but it was tough. But at the end of the day, I wouldn't change it for anything. They gave me so much joy in their college careers, and then even getting a chance to play and do what they did at the professional level was just.
Yeah, that's got to be a dream come true. I mean, you're seeing nowadays where LeBron James and all the professional athletes now being able to play a professional sport with their kids. And then you have, the Ball family and how supportive he is of his kids, whether people like them or not. He's doing a damn good job of being a dad.
Yeah.
Right. So kudos to you, man, for just setting an example and making things happen and making them shake for your family. We're going to tighten this thing up a little bit here. Carolina Panthers currently, how do you feel about their chances this year? And I want you to give us a little bit of feedback on, what your thoughts are in this receiver room now. Today we got rid of Terrence Marshall Jr. Who else? I think so. Jordan
We need the
Matthews.
list. J. Matt
Jordan Matthews was our
had a
tight
great
end.
game last Sunday.
He had a good game. Older vet.
Isn't that crazy? Dude,
Yeah.
that. Well, the good thing is he showed up. Sometimes, you're playing for other teams.
Yeah,
If you show up.
exactly.
That's right.
Put that film out there. You get picked up.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like sometimes, too, it could be like a age thing, too, right? Your vet is going to get paid more than a younger guy. So it could be a numbers game. Who knows? But what's your thought process right now as far as the Carolina Panthers currently going into this season?
Well, I think it all starts at the top and it trickles down. It's leadership, and I look at this football team and anything can happen. I mean, you look at Stu before you were young. 2003, when I came to the Carolina Panthers, I think the year before they were 1-15.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they were the worst team in the league.
Yeah.
It's a couple additions here, a couple additions there. It's leadership. It's just like we talked about with Cam Newton. All of a sudden, the Panthers weren't very good when we got there. I mean, you were there. You guys had struggled, and you bring in Cam, you bring in a selfless quarterback. I think everybody. Of course, Bryce is going to get. Everybody's going to bash Bryce. And he's too short. He's too this. Boy, he's still the same size he was when he was at Alabama. I mean, you got to have time to throw. You got to have a running game. You got to have
right.
some play action stuff. Take some pressure off of him. I think that they just gotta try to chip away and just don't try to do too many things too fast. And I think they got some good players. They got some good leadership. Bringing Deontay, I think, helps. Adam Thielen. They address the line. I think that's huge.
Yeah, huge.
Those guys, they can stay healthy and start to gel as a unit.
That's right.
And start to it would make me. I would be overjoyed just to see the offense. We know the defense is pretty darn good. Just to see Bryce have success. Mm-hmm. Everybody's just hating on Bryce, and I just think that if they can just get a running game going, do some things, some high percentage passes, and then let things start to build and let some momentum. Get a win, a win here, another win there,
right.
Because that's what it's all about. It's building momentum, building confidence in your football team, and that comes with coach and the coaches around him, who he surrounded himself with. I think that's huge as a player, and it's. I spoke to a high school team the other day. Grimsley High School has had a lot of success in Greensboro, and they got the top quarterback in the country, just committed to Tennessee. And I challenge the players to be selfless. I challenge them to play for each other. I think that's what makes football so great, is you need 11 guys performing at the same time. But I challenge the coaches. I think as a player, one of the thing that I hated when I became a coach, I said, I want to coach the way I wanted to be coached. And the toughest thing when you play on those bad teams, you drop a ball and you come to the sideline and the coach is cussing at you, catch the damn, hit the hole you're supposed to hit. What are you cutting back? Like, hold on. First of all, I'm already beating myself up. Mm-hmm. You don't need to just pile on and beat me up more. What does that accomplish?
Yeah.
And it's like, as a coach, one of the biggest things for me, the challenge was like Chudzinski. Mm-hmm. You remember Chud? He was making comments. Why didn't Stu do this or D'Angelo do that? I'm like, hold on now. He's seeing color. He's down on the field. You're seeing it from an airplane. That bothered me.
Yeah.
Former player. And I look at Tony Dungy, Dick Vermeil, Coach Fox, the things that they were always encouraging. Their staff, they surrounded themselves with coaches that were positive.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm hoping Coach Cannell has done, is surrounded himself with great coaches that coach. Mm-hmm. Coach, that's why you're called coach, to help.
Take these kids, take these young men through a process to get better. If you miss a hole, ask me the question, what did you see on that play?
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying? So that way now I can take myself through a self-evaluation. And when you teach guys to go and do these evaluations on themselves, they're going to want to get better. It's going to be their duty to be better. Like
they'll run through a wall for you. They'll run through a wall.
Yeah, absolutely.
As you said, you went from the Phoenix Cardinals. They weren't even the Arizona.
Right.
Dang, we're taking it back.
Yeah.
we got. You said you golf with old guys earlier today. I think you won them.
Yeah, you might be. What you is? 51?
How old, Rick?
I'm 56.
56.
Ooh, boy, you
doing
looking
it.
good.
Still
boy.
showing up with the. He don't know what sleeve. I'm surprised he showed up with sleeves on today.
He can probably still run a sprint. You run sprint still at Prolific?
Absolutely, absolutely.
I mean, to go, and I brought that up. I bring that up to say, going from a team that was, as you mentioned, underperforming, poor, perennial losing records, to being at the top and one of the most prolific offenses of all time, if not the, right? You get to see the impact, the difference, of coaching, the difference of the locker room chemistry, the difference that certain players that they make. Not just talking about the stars, but those that we referred to earlier, the guys that you need on your roster, the glue guys, or the guys that are going to be, not the most talented, but he knows where he's going. He's going to be behind the starter. Hey, man, you got this, right? Yeah. We all know how that goes. And so your experience, man, is just priceless. It's a wealth of knowledge. And I'm sure that all of those things are what make you. You can tell just talking to him, man. It's like, got me. You wish you played for him. You did get to play with him. I wish I played for him.
I used to be able to go to Rick and be, hey,
awesome.
Rick, no. Awesome. I used to go to Rick like, and he'd be like, hey, man, I know. I'm like, as long as you know, man, that makes me feel better.
Man. Yeah, you're good.
Outstanding, man. Well, with over 600 career receptions, over 50 touchdowns, he knows a little bit about something.
Yeah, you know a lot about a lot of things.
That's
well,
right.
I think it's funny. It's like you said, when you play for bad teams, and I thank God, you play for good teams, you see the difference. Why those teams won and those teams lost, and why. And it's no different than my business. I try to encourage the people that work for me. I try to, I want it to be, it's quality of life. I want them to want to work hard for me. I don't ask them to do anything I don't do. It's at the time I was miserable when you're on the losing teams, you're getting your head beat in every week. And, but I wouldn't change that. Wouldn't trade for anything, because I learned so much through that process and that journey.
That's right.
That's beautiful.
Love it.
Well,
love it, man. We got to spend some time. This is great.
Yeah, this is great, man. Thank you for your time. I do have a, while you were in Seattle, the Chicago Bulls, the Sonics, you were in Seattle during that time. I just want to know, from a professional athlete that's playing in the league, an adult, what was that time like? Experiencing the Seattle Sonics playing in the NBA Finals against the Chicago Bulls.
It's unbelievable. I think, I'm not going to sit here and talk about, today's game and how it's changed, but to watch, Kemp was unbelievable. He was a freak.
The Rain Man.
The Rain Man.
Unbelievable. But then just Jordan was that guy that, he made you turn on the TV, I'm watching Jordan's playing tonight. Like, he was unreal. And I grew up in that era with Larry Bird, Magic Johnson, Kareem, Clyde Drexler. I grew up a Dr. J fan. And you look at Doc, he really couldn't shoot. He just was in the air, man. When he got just unbelievable, like just floated and but it was awesome to be down with Seattle winning and what they were doing. And then the Bulls. Then I went to Chicago. I played in Chicago in '97. Jordan was there. Got a chance to meet him, and but just it was awesome. It was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun Ken Griffey. I mean, shoot, and you look on the
Mariners.
baseball side.
Man, yeah, dude. Like you was a pro at the right time. That's the reason why I wanted to ask. Because growing up in Washington, I'm always like I grew up hearing Ken Griffey, hearing Gary Payton, Sean Kemp, like Warren Moon, like Sean Alexander, Ricky Waters. We had a story about Ricky. Leave that alone. But like, but it was just like growing up, I always wondered. And so just had to ask you that question before we
It was unbelievable. Yeah, it was amazing. Just, you know, I think that the toughest thing for me, Stu, what I have a hard time with as I've gotten older is now I lose track of where guys are at. Like I used to know everybody, what number they wore, what team they were on, where they're, you know, and now it's, you know, God, you know, and it's just hard now. I mean, guys are constantly changing teams and it's no different than college. I mean, now with NIL, I mean, these kids
hopping teams every week,
hopping schools. You know, it's that's the hardest thing. I'm kind of that old school mentality. You know, you just love because those rivalries were so true. Like you look at the old when I grew up, the Sixers, Celtics, Lakers. That's right. Detroit was freaking sick, and then like you said, then Seattle with Kemp and Peyton and the glove. Like I mean, there were those true rivalries, and I feel like not that they're not there now, but they're not like it was back then.
Never will be.
No.
Well, thanks, Rick. Appreciate your time, man. Thanks for tuning in to Stu and the crew. Much love to everything that you're doing.
We got to get out. I want to see that 38 he put up on the front.
I'm trying to throw this 40 on you because I'm really 16 handicap, and I shot a 40 today on the front nine. So
I can get you. Old North too. I can get us down at Old North State.
Okay, let's do it.
Yeah,
y'all heard it here. He's gonna invite us to go golf. So if he doesn't do it within the next 2 months, you'll hear about it. All right, man.
Absolutely,
Ricky. We appreciate you, man. Thanks for joining us for the show.
All right, man.
Thank you. I appreciate it, man.
Ricky Proehl.